The Carmel Ridge, spring, 1457 BC. A mountain defile so narrow that in places one man can pass at a time. The entire Egyptian army, tens of thousands of soldiers, infantry, charioteers, and archers, is strung out in single file through this pass. Equipment scraping stone walls. No room to form a line, no room to retreat, no room to do anything except move forward and hope. At the front, setting the pace, is a pharaoh who is 24 years old. He chose this route. His officers told him it was suicide. He chose it anyway, not because he is reckless, but because he has already won the battle. The Canaanite coalition arrayed against him has positioned its forces at the two wide, safe, obvious routes. No one is defending the Aruna Pass. No sane commander would use it. The army emerges on the other side intact. The coalition is out of position. The plain before Megiddo is open. This is how Thutmose III fights. This is why no one beats him. Imagine Egypt in approximately 1450 BC. Not the Egypt of tourists and postcards, the Egypt of power. The empire of Thutmose III at its height covers 1.5 million square kilometers. No pharaoh before him has held this much territory. No pharaoh after him will. In the north, Egyptian authority extends to the Euphrates River in modern Syria, and beyond it, because Thutmose has already crossed and planted a victory stela on the eastern bank. The first Egyptian pharaoh in history to campaign east of that river. In the south, Egypt controls the Nile to the fourth cataract in modern Sudan, deeper than any pharaoh has reached before. Along the Levantine coast, the ports of Byblos, Ugarit, and Arwad are integrated into an Egyptian tribute and supply system that feeds the army and underwrites the building campaigns at home. City-states from Canaan to Assyria send annual tribute to Thebes. The records are precise. They are carved on the walls of Karnak and the most detailed military annals surviving from the ancient Near East before the Assyrian period. 924 chariots from the Megiddo campaign alone, horses in thousands, gold, silver, lapis lazuli, copper, cattle, slaves. The personal chariot of a defeated king worked in gold and silver. The Eastern Mediterranean Trade Network, cedar from Lebanon, copper from Cyprus, tin from Anatolia, horses from Mitanni, gold from Nubia, flows through territory he controls. The pharaoh who holds the land routes through Canaan holds the arteries of the ancient world. He holds them all. At Karnak, he is building the festival hall, the Ak Menu. Its columns are designed to resemble the tent poles of the campaign pavilions he uses in the field. The architect and the general are the same person. The same mind that reads a mountain pass reads a building. He does not separate what he builds from how he fights. One man built this empire. He started with a throne someone else was sitting on. To understand what he builds, you have to understand what he starts with, and who he has to outlast before he can start. The 18th dynasty of Egypt is not merely a royal family, it is a military ideology with a crown on it. 60 years before Thutmose III is born, Egypt had been humiliated in a way the civilization never forgot. The Hyksos, a foreign people from the Levant, occupied the Nile Delta for roughly a century, reducing Egyptian kings to vassals in their own land. When Ahmose I expelled them around 1550 BC, he did not simply restore Egypt, he transformed it. The pharaohs who follow him are conquerors by doctrine. Egypt does not wait for enemies to arrive. Egypt goes out to find them. Into this dynasty, around 1481 BC, a son is born to Thutmose II and a secondary wife. Not the great royal wife, not the queen. The son's claim to the throne is legitimate. He carries royal blood, but not uncontested. His name is Thutmose. He is the third to bear it, and the weight of the two before him already hangs in the air. When Thutmose II dies around 1479 BC, the heir is approximately 2 years old. The great royal wife steps in as regent. Her name is Hatshepsut. She is the boy's aunt. She will rule Egypt for 20 years. She does not remain regent. Within a few years, Hatshepsut declares herself pharaoh. Not acting pharaoh, not queen regent, pharaoh, with the full titulary, the double crown, the crook and flail, the ceremonial false beard worn in official representation. Thutmose III holds a co-regency title. He watches. For 20 years, he watches. What he watches is, by any measure, extraordinary. Hatshepsut commissions the mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahri, one of the architectural achievements of the ancient world, cut into the limestone cliffs across the Nile from Thebes in 3 ascending colonnaded terraces. She sends a trading expedition to the land of Punt that returns with living myrrh trees, ebony, ivory, and animals Egypt had never seen. She erects 2 obelisks at Karnak, the tallest in Egypt. Her reign is prosperous, stable, and architecturally ambitious. By every economic measure, Egypt does well. What she does not do is campaign. There is limited evidence of military activity under Hatshepsut, a possible incursion into Nubia, some frontier consolidation in the south, but nothing resembling the aggressive military expansion that Egyptian ideology demands of a pharaoh. The city-states of Canaan, accustomed to paying tribute to Egypt, watch 20 years pass without a pharaoh's army marching through their territory. They are not idle. They draw conclusions. They have conversations. A coalition forms, led by the king of Kadesh, and it positions itself at the most strategically vital location in the ancient Near East. Hatshepsut dies around 1458 BC. Thutmose III is approximately 22 years old. He has held the title of pharaoh since he was 2. He has never commanded an army. Waiting for him at Megiddo is a coalition of Canaanite city-states that has had 20 years to prepare, and they are betting he is not ready. They are wrong. 3 routes lead from the Egyptian staging point at Yehem to Megiddo. The first and second are wide, open roads, adequate for moving an army, defensible for the coalition waiting at the far end. The third is the Aruna Pass, a narrow defile through the Carmel Ridge, single file for most of its length, completely indefensible if anyone is waiting at the exit. The coalition has positioned its forces to cover the 2 wide routes. The Aruna Pass they have left unguarded. At the Council of War, Thutmose III's officers make the case for the safe routes. The annals record their argument with unusual specificity. The Aruna Pass is too dangerous. If the enemy attacks while the army is strung out in the defile, the column cannot form a battle line, cannot reinforce its front, cannot retreat without chaos. Horse will tread on foot, chariots will block infantry. The entire army could be destroyed before it exits the mountain. The logic is sound. The safe routes are safer. Why does a commander choose the most dangerous route when 2 safe routes are available? Because the coalition has positioned itself to defend the safe routes. Because the Aruna Pass is dangerous. And that is exactly why no one is watching it. The coalition is not wrong to leave it unguarded. No rational commander uses it. Thutmose III has already grasped something his council has not. The battle is not at Megiddo. The battle is at the Council of War, and it is won the moment he chooses the route no one expects. The Canaanites have planned for a rational enemy. He will not give them one. He announces that he will lead the army through the Aruna Pass himself at the head of the column. Any officer who wishes to take one of the safer routes may do so. No officer takes the safer route. The entire Egyptian army follows him into the defile. They emerge on the plain before Megiddo in good order. The coalition, positioned to defend routes on the left and right, is completely out of position. Thutmose deploys his forces, the left wing anchored to the north, the right wing extending south, himself commanding at the center, and advances. The coalition does not have time to reposition. The Egyptian line strikes a force still scrambling to respond. The battle is decided quickly. The coalition breaks. What follows is a rout. Thousands of Canaanite soldiers running for the walls of Megiddo, the nearest safety, because the open field behind them holds Egyptians. The gates of Megiddo, already closing against the chaos, are shut before most of the fleeing soldiers can enter. Their comrades inside the city drag them up over the walls by their clothing, armor, robes, whatever holds, because there is no other way in. The Egyptian army stops, not to pursue, to plunder. The abandoned Canaanite camp sits between the pursuing Egyptians and the closing gates, and the soldiers stop to take what is there: gold, silver, equipment, horses. The annals record what Thutmose III says about this. He tells his soldiers that the city could have been taken that day. If they had not stopped to loot, the gates would not have had time to close, and every king in the coalition would have been taken prisoner in a single afternoon. The frustration is specific. He is 24 years old, and his soldiers have just turned a complete victory into a partial one because they stopped to count chariots. He is right. They are soldiers. The city holds the coalition leadership is inside its walls. So Thutmose III builds a siege. He encircles Megiddo with a wooden palisade, a complete circumvallation, cutting the city off from supply and reinforcement. The annals describe the engineering in detail. No one goes in, no one comes out. The city cannot be resupplied. It cannot be reinforced. It cannot break out. After 7 months, Megiddo surrenders. The spoils list from the annals is exact: 924 chariots, 2,238 horses, 200 suits of armor. The personal chariot of the king of Megiddo, worked in gold and silver, 1,929 cattle, 22,500 sheep. The city-states of Canaan that have not yet submitted send tribute to Thebes within the season. He is 24 years old. He will do this 16 more times. 17 campaigns across 20 years. It is worth understanding what 17 campaigns actually means. Not raids, not punitive expeditions, but systematic construction of an empire. Thutmose III does not simply march north, fight, and return. Each campaign extends the supply infrastructure for the next. Each campaign integrates the conquered city-states into a tribute network that funds the campaigns after that. He takes the sons of local rulers back to Egypt, raises them at the Egyptian court, educates them as Egyptians in language, in culture, in loyalty, and sends them home to govern their cities as Egyptian clients. The empire maintains itself through the men who were once its hostages. This is administrative sophistication that Rome will not match for another 1,000 years. The sixth campaign, approximately 1447 BC. Thutmose loads his army onto ships, crosses the Mediterranean, and campaigns inland from a naval base on the Levantine coast. This is the first documented amphibious military operation in history. He is using the sea as a logistical highway, 2,000 years before the concept becomes standard military doctrine. The coast feeds the army drives inland. He does not need to march from Egypt each time. He can project force from anywhere his fleet reaches. The eighth campaign, approximately 1446 BC. Thutmose III crosses the Euphrates. He erects a victory stele on the eastern bank, beside a stele his grandfather Thutmose I had placed there a generation earlier. Then he hunts elephants in the marshes of Nile in northern Syria. The annals record 120 elephants. This detail is not decorative. Elephant hunting is a royal sport, but it is also performance. The pharaoh who maintains Ma'at, the cosmic order, demonstrates his dominion over nature as well as nations. He is standing at the furthest boundary of the known world, past the great river, hunting the largest animals in the region. He is showing his court, his army, and every king who will hear the account that there is no edge of the world he will not reach. After 17 campaigns, he has not lost a single pitched battle. The tribute flows from the Euphrates to the Fourth Cataract, from the Levantine coast to the interior of Syria. The Eastern Mediterranean trade network runs through territory he controls. He turns from campaigning to building, and what he builds is commensurate with what he has taken. At Karnak, the festival hall rises, the Ak Menu. Its columns are designed to resemble the tent poles of the campaign pavilions he used in the field. The architecture of war, translated into the architecture of ceremony. He adds to every major temple in Egypt during his reign. He erects obelisks, several of which are still standing. One stands on the Thames Embankment in London, moved there in 1878. One stands in Central Park in New York, erected in 1881. One stands in Istanbul, remnant of a Constantinople that no longer exists. These obelisks were quarried by the same man who designed the Aruna Pass maneuver. They were inscribed by the same administration that recorded the siege works at Megiddo. He does not separate the warrior from the builder because they are not separate. The same precision that reads a battlefield reads a monument. The same understanding of scale that moves an army across the Euphrates moves stone from Aswan to Thebes. His obelisks are still standing. The empires that moved them are gone. Thutmose III dies around 1425 BC. His reign has lasted approximately 54 years, 20 of them under Hatshepsut's dominance, 34 of them as sole ruler. He is buried in the Valley of the Kings, in the tomb designated KV-34, with astronomical charts on its ceilings and the full text of the Amduat, the account of the sun's journey through the underworld, written on its walls in a cursive script that resembles papyrus, as if the tomb itself is a giant scroll, unfurled in the dark. It is one of the most remarkable burial chambers of the New Kingdom, and it sat undisturbed for 3,000 years. What happens after he dies? Specifically, what happens to Hatshepsut is one of the most deliberate acts of institutional violence in ancient history. Sometime during the reign of Thutmose III's son, Amenhotep II, or possibly in the final years of Thutmose III's own reign, a systematic campaign begins. Statues of Hatshepsut are smashed and buried in pits near Deir el-Bahri. Her cartouches are chiseled off walls, not worn away by time, but struck, specifically with tools. Her images are replaced with representations of Thutmose II, or Thutmose III. In places where the stone is too difficult to rework, plaster is applied over her face and new scenes painted on top. In some cases, the spacing of hieroglyphs on a wall shifts inexplicably because a name has been removed and the inscription reconstructed around its absence. How do you erase a pharaoh? You chisel the name, you plaster the face, you wait 3,000 years. For those 3,000 years, Egyptologists did not know she had existed. When her traces began to appear in 19th century excavations, female grammatical forms attached to a pharaoh's cartouche, titles that did not fit any male ruler. Scholars initially assumed the records were damaged or corrupted. The idea of a female pharaoh did not fit the inherited model of Egyptian kingship. Gradually, through the work of scholars, including James Henry Breasted and later Herbert Winlock, the picture assembled itself from fragments. A woman had ruled Egypt as pharaoh for 20 years, in full pharaonic regalia, with full administrative authority, and someone had subsequently spent enormous resources making certain no one would ever know. The traditional explanation that Thutmose III, humiliated by 20 years of subordination, ordered her erasure in personal revenge, has been largely set aside by modern Egyptology. The erasure happens too late in his reign to fit a revenge motive. If hatred drove it, he waited 30 years to act. The more probable explanation is dynastic. Amenhotep II, securing his own succession, removed a figure whose existence complicated the legitimate line of descent. The erasure is administrative. It is housekeeping. It is, in its way, worse than rage. It is indifference, elevated to policy. But the erasure buries Thutmose III as well. Without Hatshepsut's 20-year reign to account for, his story loses its beginning. The 2-year-old heir, the co-regency, the 20 years of watching. Without that beginning, the man who crossed the Euphrates and never lost a battle becomes a pharaoh with no prehistory, no origin story, no 20 years of waiting before he was unleashed. 2 rulers are buried under the same act of dynastic forgetting. One because she was too powerful to acknowledge. One because his story cannot be told without hers. Archaeology has spent 2 centuries recovering them both. KV-34 yielded its astronomical ceilings and its cursive Amduat, the oldest complete copy of that text discovered in a royal tomb. The Annals of Thutmose III at Karnak, 223 lines of hieroglyphs recording his campaigns in the most detailed military record from the ancient Near East before the Assyrians, have been studied translated, and argued over since Breasted's translations in the early 20th century. The obelisks speak for themselves on 3 continents. At West Point, when military historians teach ancient campaign logistics and operational planning, they teach Megiddo. It is the first battle in recorded history documented in enough detail to analyze tactically. The route selection, the deployment, the pursuit, the siege. The first documented amphibious operation in history is Thutmose III's 6th campaign, the first systematic integration of conquered territories into an administrative client network, scaled across 20 years and 17 campaigns, belongs to the same man. The military historians found him before the general public did. They recognized the record for what it was. They called him the Napoleon of ancient Egypt.
Napoleon would have objected to the comparison.
There is an obelisk in Rome. It stands in the Piazza San Giovanni in Laterano, the Lateran obelisk. It is 32 meters tall, the tallest ancient Egyptian obelisk still in existence. It was quarried on the order of Thutmose III. It was transported from Karnak to Rome by the Emperor Constantius II in AD 357, set upright in the Circus Maximus, toppled sometime in the early medieval period, buried under centuries of accumulated city, excavated in 1587, and re-erected by Pope Sixtus V in the Piazza San Giovanni in Laterano, where it has stood ever since. The empire that built it is gone. The empire that moved it is gone. The city around it has been sacked, rebuilt, converted, conquered, and transformed beyond recognition multiple times in 3,400 years. The obelisk has not moved since AD 357. Most people who walk past it do not know his name. The stone does not require them to.